Hi, everyone, and welcome to The Prompt, a Systems Unlimited podcast. This is our first ever episode. I'm Katie Cummins. I'm the Director of Strategy and Analytics at Systems. And with me today is my co-host, Kathy Brooks. Kathy is an HR manager in charge of benefits. Kathy, how are you?
I'm doing great, Katie. Thank you. I'm so excited for our very first guest.
Me too. And we got a good one for our first ever show. It's Mona Kenyon, the CEO of Systems Unlimited. Mona, thank you for doing this.
Woo!
How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm so honored to be the first guest. It's a big deal.
It was kind of a no-brainer.
Well, yeah, but still.
Well, I think we just want to spend today as an opportunity for our staff, who's our main audience for the podcast, to get to know you a little bit. Kathy and I have both been really lucky to work for you and work with you pretty closely. So we like to think we know you a little bit well, at least. But a lot of our staff don't necessarily have that experience. You know, we're so spread out across the state, really. So we're just hoping to use this as an opportunity to ask you some questions about your life at Systems, about your life outside of Systems, and maybe give some people insight into what's the life of the CEO at Systems like and what you have in mind for the future of the agency. So I guess the natural place to start is at the beginning. Give us your life story. Where are you from? Where'd you grow up?
All right. Yeah, I'm actually from Illinois. I'm from Northern Illinois in a small little grungy town called Rochelle. It's really, maybe 80 miles outside of the Chicagoland area. I grew up there until we moved away. I think we were in our early 30s when we moved away from Illinois. But grew up in the little town. We're known as the hub city. So the claim to fame is the number of trains that run through the town. And there's an actual hub where I think it's 5 different train tracks converge. And there's a museum there, and train fanatics from across the world will come to Rochelle to take pictures of these trains converging on the train tracks. So it's a huge deal.
That is
very proud.
That is a huge deal. I'm picturing like Thomas the Tank Engine and like the spinning contraption so they can get on different tracks. Is
that all originated in Rochelle? No, I don't know if it did or not, but
I think he was.
It would be cool if it did.
I think he was English, that tank. But
yes,
but
Ringo Starr was one of the voices on Thomas the Tank Engine.
Oh my gosh! You know, we have some younger listeners that might not know who Ringo Starr is.
Ringo Starr is the drummer for the Beatles.
Do you want to sing us a little ditty?
Don't trap her into singing.
Okay. First of all,
although it is a core part of Mona's character, if you've seen her around the office, she will occasionally break out into song.
Absolutely. And she has quite a nice voice.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
That is not true, but I love to hear it. Don't encourage me.
With these trains, I'm imagining that instead of going to the movies on a Friday night, you guys would get together and watch the trains. Was that an activity?
Yeah, that was what all the cool kids did. We'd pull up and watch the trains.
Wow, this is so wholesome.
It's not true. The trains were the bane of our existence. You were constantly held up by a train.
So you said you moved away from Illinois in your 30s?
Yes. Yeah. So, well, actually, I left Illinois when I was 18. I went to community college in a little town near close to where I grew up, and that did not work out for me. I didn't go to classes, so I wound up going into the Air Force. when I was 18. So that's what got me out of Rochelle the first time. So I was stationed in Tampa, Florida, and then wound up discharging from the military, decided I wanted to go to school full time. And I moved back to Illinois and went to school using the GI Bill. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
What made you, because like knowing you now, it's hard to imagine you in the military. What made you decide to go that route, and like why did you pick the Air Force, and were you flying planes? What were you doing?
I wasn't doing anything, going anywhere. When I was 18, after I graduated high school, my dad, he was in Vietnam. He went into the Air Force. He actually went in before there was a draft, so he's very early. So that always stuck in the back of my head. It really was a last minute decision. I thought I need to do something. I went to talk to a recruiter, and 3 weeks later I was gone. So there really wasn't a lot of time to second guess this decision, but I'm really, really glad that I did it. I was somebody who was I still am extremely shy and very little confidence in anything. And going into the Air Force, you really are pushed. You don't have a choice. You will do these things. And I wanted to do something different. And so I signed up. I said I wanted to work with electronics in some way, and I wound up working on airplanes. So the F-16 airplane is what I worked on, the electronic flight systems of the F-16. So I worked on a flight line on these jets in Tampa, Florida. And that was extremely hard, but it was also the best thing that I ever could have done. I started going back to school part-time when I was in the Air Force. And then I went to school full-time when I got out and continued on and ultimately wound up with a master's degree. So I credit that Air Force, that experience with all of that, getting that stuff taken care of. So yeah, it was good for me.
That's awesome. Is there anything from that time that still is kind of with you in the position that you have today in terms of characteristics, or just something you gained from that you find yourself using all the time in the work that you do now?
Yeah, I think the big thing is you don't make assumptions. Don't make judgments before you've had the experience. Don't judge people until you've met them and worked with them. From afar, the things that I did, the people who I worked with and interacted with, I learned that I was wrong almost every single time I made an assumption. I learned invaluable things from the people I worked with. I worked with all men on the flight line, and they wound up really keeping an eye out on me and training me and showing me the right way and the wrong way to do the job. So I look back on it with fondness. I think that it was just a really good experience for me. I grew a lot. And knew that if I set my mind to something, I can do it. Even in an uncomfortable situation, I can handle it and do it. And I think I take all of that with me today with the things that are in front of me at work and in life in general.
Absolutely.
There's always a way. You can always figure it out.
Did you, I know your master's is in education, right? What did you end up going to school for?
Well, I got my bachelor's degree in speech language pathology and audiology, and decided I really wanted to work with people, and with more of a counseling angle to it. In Illinois, I was licensed as a counselor, which is therapist here in Iowa, or at least it was back then. but I wanted to specifically work with people in higher education at community colleges. And for me, going to school was my way out of my life that I had back in Rochelle. So I wanted to work in that environment. So that's what I got my master's degree in. I found that trying to find a job in that narrow of a field, it was very difficult when we moved to Iowa. And that led me to look for other jobs. And at the time I saw a senior counselor position come up, and I saw that word counselor. And so I applied, and it was a senior counselor position here at Systems Unlimited. I had really no idea of the field, much less Systems Unlimited. So I came in and I interviewed with a woman, the coordinator. Her name was Janelle Rockwell, and she was a masterful salesperson. Like, she sold me on the agency. She did not even talk about specifics of the job. And my first day, I knew nothing. And I felt like I was in over my head. I was a supervisor for the first time, and doing work that I didn't know what I was doing, but I fell in love with the work. I fell in love with the people that I worked for at the house, and also with the staff. And so that kept me, that's how I got hooked with systems. I wasn't looking specifically for a job. I didn't know anything about systems, but I just got lucky.
So for people who maybe don't remember, weren't around, so senior counselors were what we now call supported living supervisors.
So you started, and what did that first week look like?
Serious. And there were some very serious medical cares that were required at that location. And the staff did not welcome me with open arms, because here I was, a supervisor who had no idea what I was doing. So it was a situation where I had to really respect and earn that respect and be open to being trained by the staff that I was there to supervise. And it took time to build those relationships and to build an understanding and the confidence to be able to do the job. But again, it's one of those, if there's a will, there's a way. And there was a staff there, and she's not here any longer, but her name was Robin. And she had the best relationship with one of the men at the house. And I wanted that. I wanted that relationship. I wanted to learn how to do what she did. And she took me under her wing and taught me a lot. She was a wonderful staff.
I think that's really awesome to share. We teach at Systems a newer class about supervision, and it often comes up, this is my first supervisory job, or, I got a position at a site where the people don't know me, or I don't have the background. And as long as you want to do well and you're committed and you understand what you don't know, and like you said, you're learning from other people, you can find success. And you've certainly found success in something that you were really good at, and then could build on from a career aspect. I think that message will go a long way. Yeah,
that's a good way to sum that whole thing up, because that's exactly it. You got to go into these situations with an open mind and knowing you are not the expert. You can learn. You need to learn. You have to. You have to let that go. If you're really there for the people that we all serve, you have to let that go and learn from others.
So how did you go from senior counselor at the time to when I met you back in, would have been like 2010, you were at the time, I think it was called Director of Human Resources. So what was your path from senior counselor to that position?
Yeah. When we moved to Iowa City, we moved here because my husband took a job with the university, and he worked in the pharmacy unit at the university, and his hours were rotating weekends and also evenings. So it was one of those schedules that changed quite often. And I had a young children. I had twins who at that time were 8 years old, 9 years old. And we had a daughter who was under 2. So trying to balance the kids having no family, no friend, knowing nobody, it just became way too much to be able to balance all of it. And then, you are really on call at times when there's nobody else around. So I decided there was a job that came open in human resources, working with benefits. And I decided to apply for it. I'd never done any work with human resources work, but I applied. And the man who is in charge of the department, in fact, he was in charge of accounting and human resources, he called me and told me that I would not get the job because I didn't have experience, but he would be willing to sit down and talk to me about the field in general of human resources. And so I took him up on that because I wanted to learn more about it. And we wound up meeting for over an hour, and I left and really didn't think a thing about it. But a couple of weeks later, I got a phone call from him on a Saturday, and he said the woman that took the job, who was supposed to be starting, I think, on Monday, had backed out at the last minute, and he wanted to know if I was still interested. So that's how I got my shot at human resources. I was not even interviewed for the job, but I was interested in it, and I felt like it was something that I could do. And so I was given that opportunity. So that's how that started. I knew absolutely nothing about it.
Wow, I never have heard that story. That's so serendipitous for you, for the agency. Like, it's wild how that ended up happening, and then look where you are now. It's just, sometimes things are just part chance, part making, I'm sure, a good impression in that hour-long conversation you had.
Well, I think it's also, there are opportunities that are in front of you that don't seem like they're going to go anywhere. But if you're interested, you need to keep pursuing it, and you need to take that and talk about it and find out more and more. And things will happen, doors will open, and you don't know when you're going to get that call or that email or that opportunity. It could come up again. So yeah, it's important to do that.
So how long were you gone at the university for?
2 years. I was gone for,
and then you came
2
back.
years.
Cool. What made you decide to come back? Because I think that's such a common story. I have that story with going to school and coming back. Like, what is it that pulled you back in?
It is so hard to nail it completely. I felt just this sickening homesick feeling after I left, and I knew I made a huge mistake. And I would actually see some job coaches in the office where I worked from time to time, and I had to choke back the tears because I wanted to be back at Systems working for people we serve. I wanted to be back working with all of our amazing staff. I wanted to be part of the fight to make things better. I wanted to be back to take care of our employees to the best that I could in my role. I just felt so passionate about what we do, and just the work environment, the senses of humor, all of it. I missed all of it. And there was also a piece when we moved here to Iowa City. We didn't know anybody, so I really attached my belonging to Systems. And when I left, it was just very difficult. I just missed it greatly. So
you mentioned belonging there, and I know that DEIB is a cause and value close to your heart. Has that been something that's always been that way, or is it something that you kind of found working here?
For me, it's always been that way. I came from a small town, but when I went into the military and just seeing the world, and my experiences that I had, it was always something that was extremely important to me. I think the agency has always embraced diversity. We've taught diversity classes for decades. I don't know, that was not a thing at other places of employment. I know it's become a thing, but it wasn't back in the day. And that was in place before I started. So I did see that, and I knew that our workforce was diverse, and it was rich, and it was strong, and I just absolutely loved it, and I wanted to be a part of that. I think with our DEIB initiatives and what we started back in 2020, that was something that we really wanted to expand. We'd always wanted to expand on that, and there was an opportunity to do it, and we pushed to do it, and we're able to put together our committee, and also a committee that would impact what our core values are. It would impact our strategic plan. It would impact every fiber of the organization, and it needs to continue to be that. And I know it will. I think our DIB committee is strong. It's as strong as it has been. I think it's amazing group of people who are on that committee and who are looking out and wanting to do what's right for this agency. I think it's absolutely amazing.
There seems to be such a correlation between your experiences in growth and that sense of belonging and learning from other people and embracing those things, and that mission and what you've really pushed forth both in your role as Chief Human Resource Officer and now as CEO. And I think people feel that. It seems like there's been a shift that feels more of an embrace. I don't know a better way to put it, but where we spend so much time at work, I'm sure that feeling of homesickness of not being here is something you want people to feel, that connected, that work here. You want them to really embrace their work here and feel like they're part of something bigger. And
very much.
I think that's really cool. I do think it makes a huge difference in the lives of our staff.
Well, I think our strength comes from our staff. We can always do better. We can always do more, and we need to keep pushing. But I think at the foundation of it is a celebration of our staff. Our strength is in our celebration is in our diversity, and it's in our employees who keep showing up, and they keep wanting to do the right thing, and they keep supporting and providing the services that are needed, and they're needed here. We have a long waiting list of people who want to be in our services, but there's an even longer waiting list across the state of Iowa for people who need services. It's in the thousands. So I want to see this agency over time and in a thoughtful way, but grow to be able to offer more services to people. I think that we have a winning mix of staff, and then also of our leadership, our management team. And I see only good things for this agency. I really do. I think it's an extremely exciting time right now. I'm very excited.
It is exciting. And I know, have we hit your 1 year in the position yet?
Yes, that was, I was interim in September of 22, and then I moved into permanent in March of 23. So March, it was a year. Yeah.
Well, happy anniversary.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
I was kind of reflecting on that, and you have had, I'm sure, a somewhat unique opportunity to hire not one, but two, but actually in your process of your third, chief positions. Oh. So during your short tenure already as CEO, you've hired a chief service officer, you've replaced your former position with Mary and CR Chief, and now we're looking for a chief financial officer.
Yes.
So pretty exciting. What do you look for when you're hiring, these leadership positions? And what has that been like for you to have that many roles to fill that are such big jobs?
Well, I think it's an opportunity. It's an opportunity for the agency to decide what is needed for where we're at right now and where we want to go. That's why that strategic plan is so important. But when I'm looking for a chief position, I think it's important that we have people who have that strong work ethic, but also that fight in them. The fight of, it can be difficult, and you have to be wanting to come back to keep pushing, and you have to have that drive in you. We have a lot of goals in front of us, and we want to set the standard across the state in the provision of services. But in order to do that, we have to keep pushing to be better. So I look for that, somebody who has kind of that edge to them that wants to keep pushing. Yeah, that's one big thing.
Yeah.
Is that, Mona, I'm just curious because in working for you in HR, I never knew, maybe I misread this, but I don't think you ever had in mind like, oh, I'd really want to be the CEO someday. That is one of my goals. But you fit, from my perspective, so well in the role. So what was it that made you agree to take this kind of wild jump into this very, very difficult, high stakes job? Like, what was it that made you, I guess, agree or interested in doing that?
Well, I agreed to the interim position, and at that point, then I was interested in continuing to do it. I think that it's part of that pushing part, and always hopeful. And I'm optimistic type of a person. I see things as possible. I mean, of course, I get disappointed and down like everybody, but I really do feel like behind the next turn, there's going to be an opportunity, and there's going to be a chance at making a difference, and there's going to be a chance of success and doing the right thing. And I have been with the management team surrounded by others who feel the same way, and to bring all of us together on the same page and to be able to see that we can do this, we could really do this, is just the most exciting thing that I can imagine. And that's what kept me in it. It was the people I work with and knowing that we could do this. And it was also, and it always will be, the people that we serve. We're going to do it because of the people that we serve. That's why. So I don't know. This the excitement of the potential, the possibilities, I think is what made me decide, let's just do this. Let's give it my all, and let's just try and do it. So
we're lucky you have that attitude, because I think it's been really positive.
Thank you. I think so too.
What's been your favorite part of being in the position in the last year, and what are some of the challenges that you see, maybe not even in the context of the position, but just for the agency? Like, what do you spend your time thinking about when you're thinking about it 24/7? What occupies your thoughts?
Oh, good God. There's a lot. I think the one of the favorite things that I never thought would be a favorite thing was that working on that strategic plan. actually putting a plan together that had meaning to all of us, and seeing groups of people work across departments for the same thing, and knowing I'm not an expert at strategic planning, but bringing in somebody that was, and working through the process and making these decisions about what are the important initiatives for the organization, and everybody pulling together to do it. That was my favorite part, and working through the plan. We put a lot in that plan, and we're working on just our accountability initiative, and how that concept to do it right requires everybody on the team to hold themselves and each other accountable. And you can put it on paper, but to actually do it and live it is another thing. And it makes us better at work, but it also makes us better outside of work. So that has been my favorite thing, I think, is working through that plan. One of my favorite things. Yeah. What keeps me up at night? I think getting paid for the work we do, making sure that we are working that it's an even playing field, that the changes that are being that the state is going through right now with our waivers, what's going to come out on the other end of that. What's that going to look like as far as billing and reimbursement rates? Are we going to be successful with getting a rate increase? Those are things that keep me up. And when something happens that I don't think is fair or right, we don't think it's fair or right, who else can I nag and bug to get their attention, to have this changed, to somebody to look at this, hear what we're saying, look at us. That stuff keeps me up at night. That's what causes me to send weird notes on my phone to myself about things that I need to do and look into. It's never ending. That's the fight too. That's the piece where you can't give up. You can't walk away. You got to keep pushing for this stuff. And I know I'm singing to the choir right now for those who have been in this fight for our reimbursement. This is not just me starting this. This has been going on for years at the agency. That's how we stay in business, but it is huge.
I think it's so powerful to hear you talk about the fight and how it never ends and it's been going on forever. And that you also talked about your optimism and maintaining that. And I think that is something that kind of infects the rest of us in a good way, that we just have to keep going and we just have to keep fighting because we can make a difference. And there's really nothing more powerful or motivating than that, really, in this field that can be so hard and feel like you're pushing that boulder up the hill day after day.
Yeah. The one thing that it's not one thing. Last year we started taking trips to Des Moines, and we were participating in an advocacy day. And it's a program that the Iowa DD Council offers to providers, where they will do training on how do you advocate when you go to the Capitol. And then also they will be with you when you're at the Capitol as you're trying to talk with different elected officials and share your message. And so this year was our second year where we took a group of advocates. We had 8 people that we provide services to who wanted to go to the Capitol and wanted to share their experiences and also share what they think needs to be done. So we took that trip, and it was the best trip that we've taken. I've taken quite a few now to the Capitol, and this was just absolutely amazing. The message was tight. It was very specific from everybody who spoke to different elected officials. Some elected officials who were chairs of the Health and Human Services Committee at the Capitol, so their positions there are big, and they had people really listening and taking notes and paying attention to what was being said. And it was just such a proud moment to know that I got to be in the room while this was taking place. And we need to continue to do that. And that right there is cause for optimism. That's cause for celebration, and that'll get you motivated being a part of those trips. So, for anybody who's listening to that or to this pod, let me know if you're interested in advocacy work. We need to do a better job as an organization to do more advocating and to be more systematic in how we advocate. And that is part of our strategic plan. But it takes a lot of us to do that. And it takes a lot of planning to make it happen and to do it right. So yeah, that was quite the motivator, is taking that trip.
I would think most people have noticed over the past year that kind of increased visibility and transparency in terms of things that we're doing, where you guys are sharing during those monthly updates what's going on with various things. We're getting regular updates about the strategic plan and how things are being accomplished. I know that you encourage the management team to join other boards and really connect with people. What do you think is really going to be the ultimate benefit from those things that I know you're doing intentionally?
I think it's important that we are one organization. We have 1,000 employees, but we also need to come together and pull for the same things. And the only way that's going to happen is if people see what's going on behind the scenes. They see how we're doing financially. They understand why, we need to keep an eye on how we're spending our money. We need to keep an eye on our overtime. Because that's not going to change unless we're saying, here's what's going on and here's what we need to do about it. And if you have ideas on how to fix it, then share them. Just get that everybody pushing in that same direction. I think that is the key to making real changes that will last, is to open everything up. We do amazing things, but we also have really hard things going on, and we don't do everything perfectly, and that's okay. We're all trying and doing the best that we can. And if we aren't doing well in certain areas, let's come together and find a way to do better. We can't be afraid of that. So I think that it's very important to be transparent with what's going on.
Well, Mona, we so appreciate you being our first guest. I think, I don't want to speak for all of us, but I will to say I was a little nervous, and maybe you guys were too. So thanks for breaking the ice with us.
Yes.
I want to end with just one final question, which is there a cause outside of systems, outside of the work that we do, that you're really passionate about and want to take the free airtime to advertise it?
Well, I think it's important. Something I'm passionate about is speaking your voice and voting, and making sure that you're getting out there and exercising your right to vote. That is a cause near and dear to me. I don't know if a cause is the right word, but that's something that is extremely important to me. I don't know if there's more to that than I need to say, but vote.
Indeed, vote.
I also wanted to add that I had read an article that in 2023, that was the first year that the number of female CEOs surpassed CEOs named John in the S&P 500 index.
Wow.
Think of that, people. The number of women CEOs surpassed CEOs named John. So in a field where we have lots of women employees, it is human services, definitely, predominantly female. I think we have a great mix here, which is awesome. But, heavily female, it is still quite an accomplishment to get to the level that you did. So we're very, very grateful to have you in your.
Well, thank you. Thank you. That tidbit is fascinating. I did not know that.
You break that glass ceiling.
That's right. You break it. Speak up. Do it.
Thank you, Mona.
Thank you for having me on. This was great.